Good afternoon, I'm Karen Holmes Ward. School bells are ringing across the state. Classes have already begun in some communities and others are starting back this week. But not all eligible students are going to school on a regular basis. Chronic absenteeism continues to affect schools in Massachusetts and across the country. Before the pandemic, 13% of Massachusetts students were chronically absent, meaning they had missed about 18 days of school, about 10% of the academic year. Those numbers spiked during the pandemic, but as of March of this year, more than 19% of students were missing from their classrooms. Education officials are seeing some success in driving those numbers down, but they haven't fallen far enough. So that's just one of the issues Massachusetts Secretary of Education Patrick Tutwiler is taking on, and we want to thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Wow. So why are so many students still skipping school?
Well, it really runs the gamut. We know that chronic absenteeism is a complex issue. It could be an issue with another student in school. It could be an issue of food security or housing stability. It could be a mental health challenge. And so we've really been intentional about partnering with schools to help them figure out the systems and structures, identify the appropriate staff to ensure that we're able to meet all of students' needs to get them to school.
So for the past few years, Boston officials actually visited chronically absent kids at home, hoping that that kind of one-on-one approach would encourage them to attend. What other interventions are in the toolkit, and what else can educators do to get students to come back to class?
Yeah, I really love that story, and there are similar stories. We were in Fall River earlier this week visiting the Tansy Elementary School, which has seen a 20% drop in its chronic absenteeism rates. And they really focused on getting to the root cause of the issue why students were out, partnering closely with parents and caregivers, bringing in and partnering closely with community organizations who can provide services that families needs, that student needs. And so all of those really relational approaches are part of the toolkit to getting kids back to school.
Tell us about some of the investments the state is making to fix the factors that are contributing to the problem.
So the state has invested deeply in the mental health challenge. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has put grants out to school districts to help them establish more robust systems around addressing absenteeism and mental health. For a long time, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed has offered social emotional learning grants to help schools build out, whether it's monitoring systems or direct service systems. We've been a close partner with school districts in helping them build these out, and they're showing strong returns.
A lot of chat in the news this past week about cell phones. Cell phones obviously becoming a big distraction in the classroom. Many school districts across the country are restricting them, in some cases even banning them. What are your thoughts on this issue?
Well, I've spent a lot of time in the classroom personally. I started as a teacher, I went on to become a principal, spent time as a superintendent, and I would say definitively the challenge is more of a high school one. We don't see issues around cell phones in elementary schools and middle schools. High school, sort of a different animal. Right now, the state has, again, partnered closely with districts who want to address this in the way that they want to. We've offered $1.3 million in grants to help schools build out systems to address the cell phones, whether it's a pouch or some other mechanism to allow students to store them safely during the course of the day. But right now, we're really in a support orientation rather than a mandate orientation. The districts that want to go in that direction have our support, and others have decided that that's not where they need to go right now.
Because it's not just about the physical holding of the cell phone and what you're doing with the cell phone. It's the messaging, it's the cyberbullying, it's the other things that kids are doing with the cell phone.
That is all true. And mind you, students are in school for 7 hours a day. There's a lot that happens outside of school. We are laser focused on that 7 hours really being a time for students to connect, to engage in the learning, to really sort of sink into the experience of being a student.
And I think there are some studies that have shown that when the cell phones are taken away from the kids, the cyberbullying, social media, all that stuff goes down. during
Yes,
the year.
yes,
Yeah.
we've seen that even internationally. In Norway, for example, strong returns with that approach.
So what are some of the biggest challenges that the schools are facing this year?
Well, right now, first, let me say this. You mentioned that the bells are ringing. I would say the buses are rolling to introduce the beginning of the school year. One thing that we're doing to sort of really elevate and center the power of the beginning of the school year is a program called Your Presence is Powerful. We're really messaging to students and families that being in school is so incredibly important. Their presence is, in fact, powerful. And we're also attempting to bottle that, right, and use it as a mechanism to keep that sort of enthusiasm and excitement that we experience at the beginning of the year. At the middle and end of the year, we're asking for students and families, parents and caregivers, teachers to submit videos, pictures, all of the things that capture their emotions about the beginning of the school year to us through doe.mass.edu as part of a promotional campaign, and we'll tell their story in the second half of the year.
On this November's ballot, question 2 asks if the state should eliminate the MCAS test graduation requirement. Both you and the Governor, Healy, oppose this change, which puts you at odds with the Mass Teachers Association. Tell us a little bit why and what's at stake.
So, a point of clarification first. The ballot question does not eliminate the MCAS. It decouples the MCAS test from the graduation requirement. Important distinction. There's a lot of confusion out there around what the question actually means. The governor and I have been really clear and consistent in saying assessment is important. We acknowledge that the MCAS is not a perfect assessment. I'm not sure that a perfect assessment exists. But it's a very good one, and it allows us the opportunity to understand for students in grades 3 through 8 and again at high school, how are they doing in relation to really critical core standards, skills and content areas. So one, assessment is important. Two, we believe deeply that a uniform standard for graduation is important. If the ballot question passes, Massachusetts will be one of 2 states in the country that does not have a uniform statewide expectation for graduation. And the final thing that I will say as a former teacher, former principal, is that in education, when there's a change initiative that is not part of a process, there tends to be unintended consequences. In my view, the ballot question is an event, not a process. And so we are open to thinking about the entire scenario around graduation, but we would like for it to be part and parcel of a thoughtful process.
All right. Secretary of Education Patrick Tutwiler, thank you very much for joining us today. Don't forget, everybody, the state's Your Presence is Powerful competition is open through December 20th, and it will be featured across the state in the spring. And we have a link to the submission details on WCVB.com/CityLine.